No super long intro for this video since this is a direct continuation from part 1. Go watch that first if you haven't. Or watch Over the Hedge instead. Either works. Anyway, let's pick up where we left off.
You would mount that poor pussy like some sort of mule?
He-Man vs. Lion-O is a lot of fun. I don't think it's the peak of versus content like everyone else seems to think it is, but I still really love this one. It conveys He-Man's power leagues better than She-Ra vs. Wonder Woman did for She-Ra. The mountain throwing scene is pretty fucking cool, and the animation having really awkward looking segments actually plays in its favor considering the really goofy match. The use of the He-Man theme is also really good and helps add to any scene when He-Man does something epic. There's nothing about this episode that sticks out as something that really bothers me. Nothing stands out as particularly amazing, but this is still a really great episode and is easily my second favorite season premiere.
I will crush your foes!
Ryu vs. Scorpion remains just as good as I remember. The action is fast-paced and entertaining from start to end. It never feels too heavily favored to either side, and the constant increase in power for both characters was pretty well handled. Until the power of nothingness, which felt really weak. Also, I don't like that Scorpion just no-sold this massive Kamehameha, much like in a certain other episode. Some voice lines feel out of place as well, and the death is really tame considering it's a Mortal Kombat fight. But all that's still not enough to ruin my enjoyment of the episode. My favorite part is where Scorpion grabs Ryu by the cock and balls.
Well, this defies all logic!
Tigerzord vs. Epyon is great. It's one of the funnier episodes of the season and has some really good animation in regards to the sword fighting. The voice acting is also on point, especially for Tommy, and that death scream is haunting. Speaking of the death, it was really good, as was the ending in general. I just wish there was a bit more fighting since there were a few points where it feels like not a lot happens. Still, it's a great episode and deserves the good reputation it has. This is what I would have said had I not been voted off as the imposter in Among Us with no other reason than the Epyon system said so. Now this episode is in last place. Fuck the Epyon system. All my homies hate the Epyon system.
Give me your guns and your clothes.
Terminator vs. Robocop has aged so poorly, but by God I love it a lot. It's such a perfect blend of ironic enjoyment and genuinely good stuff. The buildings and character models look like ass, but I find them so funny. There are also some genuinely cool shots, like the two of them walking towards each other without flinching at being shot, and Robocop plugging Terminator's minigun with his own bullets. The ending was pretty cool as well. The use of the explosive discs was cool, and Terminator's final line was a fitting one. Torian made a pretty good first impression, and he's only continued to improve from here. Well, mostly at least. From here on out we're in the masterpiece zone. All of the rest of these episodes are a 9 out of 10 or higher.
You made Boo mad! Who made you dead?
This one being this high is definitely not going to be a take everyone agrees with, but oh well. Is Kirby vs. Boo accurate? I don't know, and I don't really care. What I do care about though is that the animation doesn't represent the characters particularly well. I like how expressive Kirby is, but it also seems pretty out of character for him to be terrified of an opponent like he is here. And I'm not an expert on Dragon Ball by any means, but I know that's not how Kid Boo is supposed to appear. These issues do bother me, but not enough to take away from me absolutely adoring this episode. This fight is one of the longest sprite death battles, but it remains fast-paced and entertaining from start to finish, and it never drags. The start of the fight is fun, but the section with Kid Boo is where things start to get really intense, with some flat-out insane action that makes full use of Kid Boo's ruthless fighting style. The fight is brutal, fast-paced, and so damn entertaining. I wish people could focus on that instead of the issues in the analysis segments, but oh well. Out of the big 4 controversial fights of the season, this is easily the best of the bunch by a country mile. What an absolutely fantastic fight. Also, I have no idea how I forgot about it until I was well into editing, but the Funko Pop ad is legendary. Ryu vs. Strider is excellent. Way better than I remember it. It substitutes story for fast-paced intense action that remains exciting from beginning to end. There is not a dull moment in this fight, all culminating in the climactic ending that does the one-strike battle trope better than any other death battle before or after it. And the fact that Strider uses it as an opening for a finisher at the end makes it better than him just killing Ryu with the one hit. This is one of the best episodes of the early part of the season and is one of the better episodes of the season as a whole.
It looks like Godzilla, but due to international copyright laws, it's not.
Godzilla vs. Gamera is absolutely incredible. The trail of destruction that the fight leaves is better than She-Ra vs. Wonder Woman before Gamera even shows up. The character models are really stiff and some cuts are really bad, but those are my only big gripes with this one. This episode excels in sheer spectacle and it's just really cool seeing these massive kaiju just beat the shit out of each other. There are so many references in this fight that fans of both series are sure to appreciate. I'm not one of them though. I've only seen like 3 Godzilla films. Nemesis had to point them out for me. And the ending is absolutely fantastic. What an amazing episode. But it's not the best, so Nemesis is wrong, you dumb stupid head.
I'll put my dick in that.
The Pokemon Battle Royale feels like a love letter to the Pokemon series. The fight is really well done and captures the general personality of each mon pretty well. The deaths are really brutal and I like them a lot. Even if Charizard's borders on one of Great Demon's Bowser fetish kills. The analysis that was done in the research portions was really well done and I respect the amount of time that must have gone into it. There are a good few decent jokes in it as well. The Blastoise origin gag in particular remains one of the best jokes in the entire show. My only gripe is that Charizard feels like he gets a lot more screen time than the others, but that's about it. Otherwise this is a fantastic episode. Chuck vs. Segata is an absolute blast. Had they not copped out with the ending, this would be a genuine contender for the top 3. The destruction the fight caused is gradually built up instead of going straight from building level to universal in scale. Something they clearly did not take note of for future fights. There's no better way to describe this fight than hype and hilarious. It's a gag fight done right. Quite possibly the best one they've ever done. It's always nice seeing the constellation at the end of the fight in episodes even to this day.
You killed my marshmallow!
Death Battle tends to struggle to start a season off strong, but goddamn do they know how to end one. Pokemon vs. Digimon is absolutely spectacular. This is one of the first episodes to utilize a custom battle track and it's so damn good. Perfectly mixing music together from both series. The fight is great too, save for a few awkward looking animation errors. I really like how one side holds a clear edge until the other transforms, right up until the final showdown between Mega Charizard X and Wargreymon. Speaking of Mega Charizard, the shot of the Mega Evolution happening is stunning. I love seeing how the trainers react to the new forms the other mons take. I love the intense final showdown between both dragons in their strongest forms and I especially love the death. I can see why it wouldn't work for some people. It's absolutely heartbreaking, but the emotional impact makes it work so much more for me. If they'd went as far with it as they initially wanted to, like they said on the cast, then it may have ended up being my favorite scene in the show's history. But as it is now, it's still an amazing end to an amazing episode, which ended off an equally amazing season.
I need to change my pants.
So clearly Goku vs Superman 2 wasn't received as well as they would have liked. If they wanted to win back the Dragon Ball fandom, they'd have to do a fight with the series that was something really special. An episode that stood out amongst the rest. They could have done a fight with Cell, Gohan, Frieza, or maybe even bring Vegeta back to do a world-shattering fight on a scale bigger than almost any other episode. They instead decided to do an episode with Hercule Satan. And wouldn't you know it, they made a masterpiece. This episode is just dumb fun and I absolutely adore it. The character's pathetic nature leads to a lot of comedy at their expenses and almost all of it works. The action is decent enough, but it starts to get really good when the weapons are scattered all across the arena. Dan getting tossed around by the jetpack is a real highlight. The death is pretty great as well. The characters play off each other really well and the excellent voice acting really helps with that. Dan in particular has some great lines. I love the delivery on this line especially.
Well, that's disappointing.
The comedy may be the strongest aspect of the episode, but there is one legitimately cool shot. That being Dan accessing the raging demon. Up until he gets tripped up, that is. The line delivery and background music are genuinely haunting and it's way more badass than I would have expected from Dan fucking Hibiki. This episode is a highlight of the season for most people and I definitely agree with the majority opinion on that.
How on earth did you learn to use a knife like that?
Funny how Goku vs Superman 2 got topped by the very next episode that came out after it. Donkey Kong vs Knuckles is the pinnacle of Season 2 sprite battles. This fight is so funny and full of personality. There's the setup where Knuckles eats the banana with the peel on. The scene where the minecart crashes and they both hold each other out of fear. And of course, the running joke of Knuckles saying, "Oh no." Even the analysis segments are pretty funny, with the segments where they go over the character's stupidity. Knuckles eating the napkin is a moment that has stuck with me for the rest of my life. The action is pretty great too. It conveys Knuckles' edge in speed and Donkey Kong's edge in strength really well. The coconut gun also leads to a lot of comedic moments. The only thing I can say I'm not that keen on is the look of the Donkey Kong sprites, but I can live with that. Also, it should have been Donkey Kong vs Knuckles Minty from Paddington 2. I don't care that the movie wasn't out at that point. We need to learn where on earth he learned to use a knife like that.
You don't want to know.
Oh, you're kidding me! I'm predictable!
Deadpool vs Deathstroke was my favorite death battle at the time of its release. While it's nowhere near my top spot anymore, this is still a fantastic episode and remains one of the highlights of the entire show. While I'm not as big of a fan of Deadpool being written as one big meme nowadays, I think Death Battle handles it really well. I love how he plays off Deathstroke in the fight, and I especially love that he hijacks the analysis segments. That really helps the episode stand out. And Taka gives possibly one of the best voice acting performances in Death Battle history as the Merc with the mouth. As for the animation, save for a few frame rate dips and some minor errors like Deathstroke's decapitated head fading out of existence, this fight is a blast. This is some of Torian's best fight choreography, and there are so many memorable moments and quotable lines. From Deadpool being hit with the flaming semi-truck as a callback to the start of his analysis segment, to the chaos on the bridge, and of course, the iconic Deadpool dance scene which Torian added while he was drunk. This episode stands out a lot amongst the rest of the season and remains a shining example of what this show can accomplish at its best, even back in its early stages. It's by far the best Deadpool death battle and my favorite Marvel vs DC episode the show has ever done, with one notable exception if you've been keeping track. What an absolute masterpiece. And we still have a few more episodes to go.
Good night, Robocop.
Well, we're down to the top 3 now. If you're a returning viewer, then you probably already know what number 1 is, so that leaves just the second and third spots left to fill. And if you've been keeping track of which episodes are left, you'll know what number 2 is as well. But I'll cover the bronze medal first. Wolverine vs Raiden is phenomenal in every sense of the word. Sure, the setup is weak and Wolverine's berserker rage isn't handled super well, but honestly I don't even care when this episode has some of the best action in the show's history, as well as an amazing and memorable death. I also find the animation of Wolverine's regeneration just really satisfying to watch, and I don't know why. The banter between the characters is pretty good. The great voice cast helps to sell the deliveries really well. Also, it turns out this episode has custom battle music. EXO isn't a song I'd listen to on its own, but it goes really well with the fight. I don't have as much to say on this one as I do with some of the other episodes. It's just a really hype fight that I love a lot. One of my all-time favorite episodes for sure.
All this time, I've been playing human.
Iron Man vs Lex Luthor was my favorite episode of Death Battle for years. It's no longer number 1 as you can see, but I still adore the episode. The pacing of the fight is great. Tony starts out not being able to even scratch Lex, but he's able to match him once he brings out the Hulk Buster and then completely turns the tables on him with the Endo Sim. I love the banter in the fight, not just with Tony and Lex, but with Tony and Jarvis as well. The action is pretty great too, and there are a bunch of great lines all throughout the fight from
I have a plan. Attack!
as a reference to the first Avengers movie, and
I'm not here. I'm jogging.
after the fight is done. But the greatest line is one you can't talk about the episode without mentioning. After Lex destroys the Hulk Buster and leaves it under all this rubble, Iron Man reverse comes and breaks out the Endo Sim armor, then drops the single greatest line in the entire show.
This is how I win.
Actually, maybe I shouldn't cheapen it with memes. Forget you heard all of that. This ending is absolutely perfect and never fails to give me chills no matter how many times I watch it. The dialogue is fantastic. The music is amazing and the death is brutal. I love this episode so much, and not even my favorite episodes from the later seasons have been able to top it. I didn't think they would ever be able to make something nearly as good as this. But wouldn't you know it, they went and topped it only 2 episodes later.
You're pretty good.
Yeah, Snake vs. Sam is still number 1. Is this episode perfect? Definitely not. No death battle episode is. And I could pick this episode apart by talking about the weirdly unfitting rap music, how some hits barely feel impactful, or how some parts of the animation just look really weird in general. But in spite of all that, this episode is a cut above the rest in my eyes. The choreography is excellent. Definitely some of Torian's best. I love how they also have the fight move around in the building they're in. It means there's more variety in locations in the fight, and the characters get to showcase their stealth, which is something they wouldn't be able to do in the same city that every other one of Torian's fights had taken place in until then. And then there's the absolutely perfect ending, which I've already gushed over plenty of times. Divine Identity fits the final knife fight perfectly and still makes the scene incredibly tense despite already knowing who wins. It's the single greatest moment in the show. Better than I've been playing human. Better than Hulk's death. Better than the Genjutsu scene. Better than boomstick twerking. Nothing has come close to topping Snake vs. Sam for me, and I'm confident it will remain my favorite episode for years to come. You know, I really thought there was a possibility of another episode this season being a surprising masterpiece and taking the top spot. But that didn't end up happening. I mean, what could top this?
What could this be? What could this be?
Vegeta vs. Mewtwo is a flawless concept executed flawlessly. This is Death Battle's magnum opus and is the peak of writing, animation and voice acting for the show. The end analysis also makes perfect sense and really broadened my perspective of the match. Though of course, this is better than Snake vs. Sam because it has the greatest meme of all time, the troll face, while Snake vs. Sam does not. Definitely watch this if you haven't. Death Battle never has and never will top it. Okay, but in all seriousness, thank you all for watching. This has been a really fun project to work on. I want to once again thank Nemesis and Z-Dog for watching through these episodes with me. Go check out their channels, which I'll link in the description. And if you enjoyed this and want to see more Season 2 Death Battle reviews, in the description I've linked Raccoon Bro's video where he reviews every episode of the season in 10 words or less, as well as the Season 2 Death Battle Oscar-style awards by MLDKF. Both of the videos are pretty good. I'd recommend checking those videos out if you enjoyed this one. Anyway, I'll see you all in the next video, though I'm not sure what that's going to be yet. Any and all suggestions are welcome. I'll see you all later.
Was that the